Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and on my right-hand side is my right-hand man, Gabriel.
Hi.
And today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Trouble County. They've just released a new single called Wasted, and they have an upcoming EP called Debt We Pay. And they've also got a few other singles and videos we're going to chat about. So I'm also being joined by the whole band, or at least the important members of the band, so I'm told. We've got Joolz, Mark, and JD. So boys, welcome to the show.
Hello, man. Happy to be here.
I'm not aware that we've got any other members, by the way.
Yeah,
not that we know about, anyway.
This is it.
Yeah, three-piece band.
Three-piece band, baby.
Trio all the way.
Trio all the way. Do you guys consider yourselves to be a power trio?
Well, we don't, but we've arguably been called a power trio. We like it.
Definitely. I think on basis of live performances, we get a big sound for three people. I think that's where the power trio kind of moniker comes from.
Yeah.
How do you guys do that? How do you get a big sound live out of three people?
It's interesting. So, like, all three of us have been in quite a few different bands, and we know what it takes to get a good live sound, and we've worked really hard with this band, particularly being the three-piece, to choose our equipment carefully, to choose our instruments carefully, and really sculpt our sound so that as a three-piece we sound massive. Yeah, well, we hope we do anyway.
Stand up to everyone else.
Definitely. It's been about working the sounds together. So, for example, I play bass. And when Joolz is playing lead, we need to get plenty happening from the rhythm section. So I've really gone for quite a fat bass tone rather than a clanky tone, which you get with quite a lot of larger bands, so that I can fill the sound up. And when we play live, I use a bit of overdrive and some other effects to really give a big sound on the bass to kind of fill the space up.
Mm-hmm. Do you have multiple amps, like one to handle the dirt, one to handle something else?
I don't have multiple amps, but what I do have is an effects pedal which allows me to blend. So you kind of get the 2-amp effect. So I can still get my clean bass sound, and then I use a send return loop with the overdrive on it, so that overdrive gets added without taking away from the low end, because sometimes you put pedals on and you lose some of the basis of your original sound. So that's how I've managed to achieve that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to lugging one bass amp round's enough for me. I don't want to take two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right, baby. Okay. Other power trio questions. Do we have any other trio? Do you guys have any particular, what was I going to call it? I don't want to call it influences. I'm not asking about your influences, but do you look at any other trio-ish bands? Some that come to mind that normally, because there's technically 4 members, we don't think of them as trios, but like, at least I think it is. Rage Against the Machine, I think, has 4 because they have a separate singer. Yeah. But arguably, the band itself is still a trio. They function that way. Van Halen, at least until Sammy Hagar came in, arguably, they functioned as a power trio. Is there anybody, Rush, is there anybody that you, like, said, check this out, they sound effing huge, what did they do?
Well, Rage Against the Machine is literally one of my all-time favourite bands, so definitely some influence there, and he very much uses overdrive and other effects on the bass to fill the sound up when Tom Morello's doing his thing. So yeah, for me, I never really thought of them as a power trio, because but musically, you're right. There's 3 people making the noise and then a vocalist. We just happen to have someone who plays guitar and sings at the same time. But musically, it gives the same kind of format as that. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure all of us have listened to bands like Rush and, and Van Halen and bands like that in the past. And you're right, all of those guys create a huge sound with just 4 instruments.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we planned on. We didn't start the band and plan on it being a trio. We actually struggled to find a vocalist, and I did a blind audition for the band, which is quite interesting because obviously, so I initially started the band. and decided to do a blind audition as a vocalist for the band because I was the guitarist. And we couldn't find a singer, so I thought, right, okay, I'd had a few beers one night, I'll have a bash at singing. And so recorded a song, sent it to the guys saying, look, I found a singer. I think I found a singer. Let me know what you think. I think he's pretty cool. and
we all said, effing dreadful.
Yeah, they said literally the worst thing ever. No, so luckily, they were brutally honest, and I knew they would be brutally honest, which is why I wanted to do it like that. They said, yeah, that works. So I revealed it was me, and then had to work on singing and playing the guitar at the same time. So it fell into place as a three-piece. It wasn't a plan. We love the fact now that it is a trio, and we kind of play to that. But yeah, it wasn't planned.
Mm-hmm. What kind of feedback did you get on your vocals?
So.
It's all been really good.
Oh, do you mean from the audition?
I mean, Joolz sent it over to, I think you sent it to me first. And I listened, and it's like, well, this sounds like exactly what we're looking for, because we talked about what kind of style of singer, and we had some pretty dreadful auditions with people who talked a really good game, and they were, really abysmal when they turned up. And we were at the point where we had quite a few songs written, and, we needed a vocalist to move forward. And then to just get that out of the blue from Joolz, it was like, well, why have we just spent all this time looking when you can do the job already?
The thing is, I've always sung, but I've never considered myself a singer. I've considered myself a guitarist. So it was a big step to do it. Hence why I did it blind. I even before I sent it to the band, I sent it around to my family, and didn't say it was me. I said, "What do you think of this singer?" And they, my family have always, they're not the kind of family that'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're amazing. You're so good. You should be famous." They're honest. They're like brutally honest. And they gave completely honest feedback, and then when I said it was me, they were like, definitely send it to the guys. Let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was pretty cool in that respect. And then in the early days, I think we struggled a little bit with being a little bit too heavy, which is initially it's not what any of us wanted. And we parted ways with our drummer, and very luckily found Spence, and what Spence brings to the band is it's really kind of locked it into what we've become now.
Mm-hmm. And what is that? What does he bring?
What do you bring, Spence?
Yeah, what do I bring? The thunder. That's what I bring.
We wanted to have like classic rock kind of roots and feel, real natural sounding drum. Spence likes Led Zepp and Black Sabbath and loads of old school stuff, as well as like 90s grunge bands, and they're all got that kind of, it's not modern sound, it's like got a classic sound, but it works with the music that we're doing. So we've always kind of, when we record, we want to have real drums, not triggers and programming. We want it to sound like a real band. There's so much music out there now that's, probably the drums are programmed. The drummer doesn't even have to play it, or it's had so much editing done. In fact, we had quite a nightmare in the studio when we were recording. Originally, like Joolz said, we were going to do an album. We recorded 12 songs, I think, in the studio.
12 or 13,
We had an absolute nightmare with the guy who was doing the engineering for us, because his focus was on triggering everything, so he wasn't really paying attention to capturing the drum sounds as best he could. We've ended up with Joolz. All the tracks you're listening to, Joolz has mixed those. They've not been mixed by the studio. We've done it ourselves because we were never happy, and it's been a real labour of love to try and create the real drum sounds out of the quality of recording that we had. I think we've learned a lot.
Just pull them apart and put them back together again, pretty much. So.
Yeah, I mean the key thing for us was, as Mark said, that natural sound, and the place for me and for us where that comes from is really the drum sound. You know, so much modern music, as Mark said, is either triggered or heavily augmented. We definitely didn't want that. We wanted 100% real drums, and you know, when the songs were mixed, Spence and I sat down and went through the drums and made sure that they were as. I mean, there's no triggering on any of it. It's all 100% real. It's as Spence wanted it to sound. It's as we wanted it to sound. And I think it makes a real difference when you mix an instrument with the actual artist in that way. You know, it really captures what they were hoping for and what their vision was. And you know, Spence, I mean, you and I sat for many hours.
Yeah, a long time, labour of love, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, for me, recording drums that way captures the genuine feel and style of a drummer. When you start triggering and overproducing the drums, although you can get a massive sound and all the rest of it, and we had some issues with some of the editing that was done where he'd kind of edited the drums and chopped it all around and tried to kind of quantize things, and then the feel and the expression and even some of the drum fills didn't sound right anymore. Because they lost that element. You know, there's a certain element of natural feel, and some people are slightly behind the beat or ahead of the beat, and that kind of gives it the vibe of the music. And it's very easy to kind of produce that out if you go too far with it.
Now, obviously, it takes a lot of work to make it all natural, especially with drums, and expensive as hell to record it that way. What kind of sound were you looking for? Because you mentioned grunge, so I'm thinking Dave Grohl. I'm thinking like a really huge, punchy sound from Dave Grohl. I'm also hearing, for example, you're wearing a Hendrix shirt, so there's some of that more classic sound, or like a Bonham sound, which is basically
I mean, they're the sort of drummers that speak to me. You know, your Keith Moons and all of them sort of drummers had, even for those times, had massive drum sounds, but totally natural, and that's kind of what we want to get from our recordings, really, you know.
And you can still all those artists now, and it still sounds great.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of modern music you'll look back on in 10 years, 15 years time, and it won't sound as great because it's not got so much natural kind of feel to it. That's how I feel about music. I mean, I still listen to music from 20 years ago, and although it's not as loud and maybe not as polished as modern music, you just turn the volume up and you immerse yourself in it, and it just feels so real. I actually find a lot of modern, especially heavy music, quite hard to listen to for a long period of time. I find everything's so compressed and driven and in your face that it becomes
almost too polished, though, in a way.
Too intense to kind of listen to for long periods. But maybe it's just because I'm old. I don't know.
It could be.
I agree with you.
All right. I am noticing, actually, speaking of mixing on the YouTube channel, there's a video specifically on how to mix a bass DI track.
With some DIY acoustic
acoustic stuff. It says ... so I don't know what else is there, but I figure I'll just let you guys carry up on that one.
Yeah, sure. So I thought it was when I was actually mixing the bass for that track. I thought that the way that I was mixing it was relatively interesting and not particularly usual. I did a bit of research on how I was mixing it. Now, I've had no official training. My brother is a professional audio engineer, so I've had a little bit of influence from him, but no official training. And when I looked up how I was mixing it, it's actually how a lot of the sort of big classic pros mix bass DIs. So I thought it'd be worth doing a little video and a bit of documentation on it. It's a strange video, to be honest, because I mean, I was trying to fix some of the acoustics in my studio. My studio is very small, and it really struggles in the low end. It's really difficult to mix the low end. So, you know, it kind of tied in doing mixing the bass and then doing a bit of the acoustic treatment to affect how the bass sounded in the room so that I could mix it better. Yeah, it was, you know, for geeky people like us, I guess it's quite a cool video.
Yeah. Cool. So then we've got natural drums, and then we have bass DI. Do you mix it in with bass amp?
Oh, yeah. In the studio, we recorded DI and then 2 or 3 microphones on the bass. We didn't necessarily use all of it, but it gave us options in terms of what worked best. I think we had a bit of hit and miss again in the studio with the quality of some of the stuff that was recorded. We had some issues with the amount of, sorry, we get technical again, but the amount of compression that's being used when you're recording something. Mm-hmm. You know, generally you want to try and record things as dry as possible, and then you do the production work after you've recorded it. If you overcook things when you're recording them, so if you put a lot of compression on bass, for example, it sounds massive. You can't take that away again afterwards and get the expression back on it. So the good thing with the DI tracks is they've got no effects on them. So that you've just got a straight signal. So, you know, your worst case scenario is you've always got that DI to fall back on, and you can work from that. And if you want to, you can reamp that DI signal and do whatever you want with it to create the sound that you need.
Yeah, I mean, Mark hit the nail on the head there. That track, that video that you're speaking of, that song, we were never happy with the bass tone that we got from the studio, so that was actually re-recorded at my house. And I don't really have the facility to have amps on full a lot of the time. So DI was the option, and yeah, I mean, for that track and the equipment used, it worked out exactly how we wanted it, really.
Okay, cool. This EP, Debt We Pay. Last question is, what should we expect from this EP? Is there a rhyme to the reason? Is there a concept to it, a theme to it?
There's a definite theme. So the term debt we pay is the ultimate debt anyone pays, which is death. Now, lyrically, our songs aren't the happiest. They document a lot of emotions. So, you know, the overall theme is not the happiest, but musically you possibly wouldn't get that from it. So it's by no means a concept EP, but the overall tone is in that vein.
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally as a band, our songwriting is quite eclectic, so we don't have any 2 songs that sound the same. I think they're all different to each other, and what we wanted to do was kind of give a flavour of the range of things that we do. So, for example, Debt We Pay is an acoustic, or at least semi-acoustic recording. It's got acoustic guitar and stuff on it. And then some of the other tracks like Awake have really got some quite big epic sections in them as well. So there's really quite a 12 Gauge Blues is much more of a kind of groove driven, straight down the line kind of track. And then Wasted, kind of big slab of energy, I guess, close as we get to it anyway with our music. You know, we do kind of up tempo, but we don't do anything that's like really fast.
Don't do any like speed punk or anything. You know.
It's a big slab of mid-paced foot tapping. You know,
not wrong with that.
All right, boys. Well, we chatted about a lot about a trio, power trio. We chatted about looking for a vocalist. We chatted about being sneaky. We chatted about
natural drum mixing.
Natural drum mixing, mixing bass DI. Yeah. We chatted about the EP Debt We Pay with a couple of tracks on there. And then for those listening in, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening, or you're watching on the website, rockmetalpodcast.ca, or on YouTube. Down below in the show notes, you'll have a link to the boys' website, as well as to some music videos / lyric videos that will take you to the boys' YouTube page, and you can keep up to date there as well. Well, gang, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it's been lovely to chat. It's been really good to meet you.